You really want to hear war stories, okay? This is a story I was told by my grandfather, who I'll call G, about when he and his brother were kids and spoke to their grandfather, who I'll call GG, who was a World War I vet. It's malicious to be sure, but it's kind of messed up. My grandfather and his family are from Zonderjylland, which is today the most southern bit of Denmark. But during World War I it was the most northern part of Germany. The people there identified as Danes and spoke Danish, but were Germans and therefore had to fight in the war on the German side. GG never wanted to talk about the war for obvious reasons, and people also had to be mindful not to drop anything, as loud noises apparently set him off. People in the family always respected this, except for my grandfather's brother, who wanted to hear some cool war stories and kept pestering him for it. Asking what he did and if he unalived anyone and the like. Keep in mind this is a bratty child around the age of 8, and PTSD wasn't fully understood at the time for him, as this is the late 40s we're talking about. GG kept saying no and the boy kept pestering. Eventually the boy started leaning back in his chair only to lean forward again so that it would make a loud bang against the floor. And he did this several times while his grandfather visibly shook with each thump, while the rest of the family told him to stop. But eventually GG shouted at him to stop and that he would tell him some more stories. Turns out my GG grandfather and his regiment committed some pretty heinous acts in Belgium. Apparently they were constantly told stories about German troops being unalived in horrific ways in surprise attacks by Belgian civilians. And as a result they were told to unalive any who seemed suspicious. He explained how they really feared even old ladies and children. So they dispatched them, and burnt down their homes. He even told of coming across an old man walking down the road, and some of the other soldiers thought that he was going to report their position to French troops. So they stripped him and handled him as well. Needless to say the boy never asked for stories again. My grandfather describes his grandfather as a kind man. Except of course if you tried to press him on the war. And I think it really goes to show what war does to a person, that a seemingly kind person becomes capable of doing such things.